Hey everyone, today's talk is about the nervous system. We're going to be discussing what happens when your nervous system is not balanced and how that affects your hormones, including your blood sugar and the hormones related to that. So, I'm going to pull up my notes here and get going on this, but I want you to understand that if your nervous system is out of whack, you're going to stay stuck. You're going to stay tired. You're going to stay wired. You're going to be really having a hard time in healing your body. We need to build that resilience so that you can feel and function so much better how you deserve to when your nervous system is in check. So let's talk a little bit about what the nervous system actually does, why chronic stress keeps us in the survival mode and it keeps that body stuck in sort of dysfunction and dysregulation. The dysregulation of your nervous system that will block your hormones, your fat loss, and your healing altogether. And what do we do in response as, people in the society in America? We think we should do more, okay? Because we think that that is going to somehow solve those problems. It actually makes our symptoms worse. Believe me, been there, done that many, many times. So what we need to focus on first to create real change is going to be sort of at the end of this and how you can sort of fix the problem or start fixing the problem. Something we have to work on nonstop. You just cannot let the gas off on this. You have to keep working on balancing out your nervous system. So here's what we're going to talk about. If you're exhausted, overwhelmed, and you feel like your body just isn't responding to anything anymore, it's not because you're lazy or unmotivated, which leads us to do more often in how we function these days. It's because your nervous system is stuck in this survival mode, right? You're just surviving. You're not thriving at all. You're just stuck in this survival mode. When you do this and when you're in this state, you cannot heal a body that thinks it's under constant threat. It just doesn't, right? So we need to sort of understand the two states and the two sides, you could say, of the nervous system. We have one side that is our fight or flight state. I know you've heard that phrase before. That's our sympathetic nervous system. Then we have this compensatory side of the nervous system called the parasympathetic nervous system. And this is what keeps you rested, digesting properly, and repairing your body. But if you're over on this sympathetic side where you're always in fight or flight and probably freeze mode, nothing is resting, digesting, and repairing. Okay. Your body is designed to move between these states. Like I said, the parasympathetic side is your compensatory mechanism, your compensatory nervous system. But staying stuck in one is no good, right? So modern stressors keep us on all the time. We skip meals. We have blood sugar crashes. I've been talking about blood sugar a lot this month. This is really important in all aspects of our health. We overtrain, we undereat, or we overeat, and we have this emotional stress. We have stress from our work, from our commutes, from family stressors. And the kind of the worst thing I think that's filling people up nowadays is information overload. We have so much information, especially about like health and wellness and nutrition and those types of things, yet we are a very, very unhealthy society, right? So the information isn't actually helpful, right? It's information overload. It causes more stress on the body, and we have information 24/7, and we have to be setting up boundaries for this so we don't lose sight of what we need to do to keep us healthy and keep our nervous system in a more balanced state. So we always think of stress as being kind of an emotional thing, which it is. It can be coming from emotional types of things, emotional types of stressors, but it's also metabolic. Okay? It's also metabolic. If you have symptoms of where you have weight loss resistance, where you have hormone issues, hormone balances or imbalances, if you are sleepy all the time, this is metabolic. If you're starting to have high blood pressure, if you're starting to have elevated cholesterol. And if your cortisol, and if you feel it in your body, your cortisol is keeping nice little, belly area that's nice and fluffy, that is a metabolic condition. So your nervous system is directly related to that. Okay. There's hormones involved in your nervous system. So, what does survival mode look like in real life? And maybe you're in this situation right now. This is some of the things that are very common to me. This is very common to the things that I am seeing in the people that I work with on a day-to-day basis. They're not personality flaws. They're not just your normal. These are nervous system signals. This is where you have those racing thoughts, especially at night, so that you're staying up all night or you're not getting that deep restorative sleep. You're tired all day, but then kind of wired at night. You actually come up at night and are able to do the things you normally feel like you should do in the daylight hours or have more energy or motivation to do them. If you're constantly craving things like sugar, caffeine, anything like that, that is definitely a sign that you're in this survival mode. If this is a common occurrence most days of the week, throughout most of the days, if you're just constantly struggling to not succumb to the cravings, or if you're constantly feeling anxious and you can't shut that brain off, you're constantly worrying, these are signs that you are in overdrive, right? You're over functioning. If you also have poor digestion and bloating, this is something I work with a lot. I work with a lot of gut health people and do a lot of gut packages and things. And that's kind of key critical to get figured out to help with everything in your absorption of nutrients. It is really, really common under stress. People have a nervous stomach. I know you've heard of that before. Or people get kind of an upset stomach if they get anxious or that kind of thing. So it's very much connected, our nervous system and our gut health. Cold hands and feet. Yes, we can blame that on the thyroid. That's very common in thyroid patients. But if you're in this survival mode, that is also part of it, in part because you're downshifting your function of your thyroid as well when your nervous system is working in overdrive. If you have low motivation, stubborn weight, and then of course that sleep I've talked about, or you wake up at 2 a.m. and can't get back to sleep, this is a sign that your body is saying, I can't really do much more of this, right? It needs some help. We need to get this nervous system in check. So basically, if you're in this survival state, when you're in this survival state, your body's going to prioritize you actually surviving over losing fat or giving you more energy or balancing your hormones. It's just going to keep you alive. That's kind of the whole point, right? So just because you're eating fewer calories and exercising more, which is a standard recommendation all the time, we don't deal with the root causes of things in our conventional wisdom. We always go to kind of the shame and the punitive things as far as like, I'm overweight and I'm frustrated and it's my fault. We don't look at the fact that we have 101 stressors on our plate and we're doing nothing to support that. We have to understand that this is critical to helping balance out the weight loss resistance and getting into those fat stores. This is critical for balancing out your hormones, including your blood sugar hormones, the insulin, the glucose, cortisol, which will help you get the energy back. Some people have way too much cortisol at some times of their life or sometimes of the day, and sometimes we have not enough. We have cortisol surges throughout the day, and if those are out of whack and you're not getting the right amounts at the right times, you're going to feel like you're in survival mode. And people live like that for way too long. I know I did way, way, way too long. And I was, really young starting these things. And I was just told I was getting older. And I hear that from the people I work with a lot. There's always an excuse and always reason. It's never about actually dealing with some of those underlying causes. It's just about it's your fault because you're a certain age or because you're a female and you have hormones that change. Nobody ever gets to the problem, but I do. We get to the root cause of the problem. So we need to look at how the nervous system controls your hormones. So cortisol is the messenger for your nervous system. Cortisol rises when your body senses danger. And then you've had those adrenaline surges too, where you have the flutters, like you have a little like short, shallow breathing. You might get red and blotchy, that kind of thing. This is to help you through the danger situation or the stressor, whatever that might be. When cortisol rises, You can, or it happens, I guess, because of low blood sugar, maybe from not eating or eating a lot of sugary, ultra processed foods. If you're restricting calories for too much for too long, if you're overtraining, over exercising, and if you have ongoing emotional stress, these are kind of signals or red flags to your body that brings your cortisol up. When you have elevated cortisol for a lot of time, when it becomes kind of chronic, you have elevated blood sugar, you have insulin insensitivity, meaning you don't utilize glucose and you can't process it very well, and you suppress your thyroid function, right? So the hormones in your thyroid that have to be converted to help you with your energy and to help your metabolism, that gets suppressed in the state of high cortisol. This will cause a decrease in your progesterone function. So, ladies in particular, if you are struggling with good sleep, you probably have and have been under a lot of stress, you're probably really struggling with progesterone levels because that gets shunted so that your body will prioritize cortisol to help you through that stress. So it is this vicious cycle where it knocks other hormones off the block and they can't really do their job because cortisol is already there, barging in, doing its thing to help you, or I should say, to not help you feel like a human being. You're always, again, in that survival mode. And high cortisol increases the belly fat storage, which is something people talk about all the time. That can be exacerbated during the time of perimenopause, premenopause, any of that time frame when hormones are shifting. That can make that feel so much worse. So, blood sugar instability also keeps the nervous system activated. So if you are eating an ultra processed diet, or if you eat a pretty clean diet, but your blood sugar is up and down because you've been over dieting before, overtraining, you eat, maybe you don't eat the right foods for yourself. And I know we've talked about that before when I've talked about the glucose reset program with the CGMs, the continuous glucose monitors. Um, that tells to tell you, even if you eat clean and you don't have diabetes and that kind of thing, it can tell you some really good insights in real time of what your body is doing with the food that you're eating. Because under times of stress, maybe even like a healthy carbohydrate, maybe you're not even responding to it properly because your cortisol is so out of control and you're just not coming from a stable place. But when you get your nervous system in check, your blood sugar can be more stable. But you have to work with, the things that you can control the most, to start. So when you have blood sugar instability, this keeps your nervous system activated, like I said, and an activated nervous system will constantly be disrupting your other hormones. Okay, so this is how this is all related. Everything is connected. It's really hard to fix one thing without doing something with the other thing. It's like tuning in the dials of the radio. You got to have everything sort of in the right spot in order to have the great sound or to feel good in this case with regard to your hormones. So this is something that I have done so many times in my life, and I'm apparently a very slow learner because in the times in my struggles of feeling a lot of the things I've just described, in this whole training, um, I would struggle them for years. I would get labs done. I would talk to my healthcare providers, and I was either told that I should just stress less. That was the sound advice, just stress less. I mean, tell someone who's really stressed about, X, Y, and Z just to not stress about it. That's not helpful. That was the advice I got about that. That I was getting older. And mind you, I was in my early 20s when I started hearing that I was just getting older. And I was told that if I just ate less calories, that would help when I was probably only eating 1,000 a day at the time or whatever, So that was the advice I got. So what did I do? When those things didn't work, I just tried harder. I ate even less. I worked out even more. We're talking sometimes 3 hours a day. I was really stupid and I skipped classes in college because they were interfering with my schedule at the gym. I have 100% cut out carbs. I've skipped meals. I have pushed through the exhaustion. I remember taking myself to the gym when I knew I must have been really sick. I didn't know I wasn't diagnosed with anything at the time, but I knew I was, congested and that kind of stuff. Turns out I had actual, bronchitis, but I was pushing myself to go to the gym um, because I just needed to feel better because, endorphins, burning calories or whatever, how the more you exercise or if you have good exercise, it helps with your energy. So that's what I was struggling. That's what I was chasing. I tried harder, but 100% backfired every single time to the point where I was actually, put on lots of medications for bronchitis, pneumonia. Numerous times that's happened to me. Then my back would go out. Then I'd feel like my knees would be sore. Then I wouldn't be able to work out for months, like 2 or 3 months or something at a time. So there was no consistency in anything that I was doing, but I was just trying to do the thing that I thought in my conventional wisdom at the time that would help me, figure things out. So, but we need to know the more unsafe your body feels, the more it will resist that change. And I was just pounding on it, just making it worse. And I'm sure if you're watching this, you probably experienced that kind of thing as well. So this is why even clean eating stops working. This is why plateaus happen for way too long. Plateaus, and I'm not just talking about weight, I'm talking about any health plateau. This is why symptoms can often worsen even under perfect plans, right? It's just really frustrating because we're not really given the tools. But again, this is how I work because I've been through this. Everybody I've worked with has been through this in some way, shape, or form. Everybody has their own experience, but my life experience told me that I was way too young to feel that damn old and I was not going to stand for it. And so that is how I put all of my programs together. My total health reset programs are all designed to really get to the bottom of all of these things and work through them over time. It is not a quick fix. I don't do quick fixes, right? So we need to really get into some of the basics sometimes, but with all that information overload we talked about earlier, sometimes you can't see the forest through the trees, right? You can't really figure it out, especially if you're coming from a place of feeling like you're stuck, you're in that fight or flight, you're in freeze mode, you are paralyzed and frustrated with all the information, you don't know where to start. I know where to start with you. I can help you with that. But anyway, back to the nervous system real talk here, right? So nervous system regulation is not going to happen just by doing nothing, right? So this is not about doing less forever. It's not about not doing the exercise or sitting still or avoiding any kind of movement. You have to create some safety first in your body. So there's some foundational strategies. I'm going to give you 6 of them. Okay, 6 foundational strategies. This will look different for everyone. Okay, this will look different for everyone, but it will be very important to setting the groundwork. This is what you should do. So if you're feeling like what I've described earlier in this video, this is not the time to start a new workout routine, train for a marathon, do the couch to 5K, start lifting heavy weights, doing intermittent fasting, whatever. Taking a bunch of supplements. This is not the time to do any of that. It's the time now to create consistent meals. This will improve your blood sugar regulation, your insulin sensitivity. It's going to give your body some safety. It's going to recognize that it's getting the adequate nutrients that it's getting from those consistent meals. And step number 2 is making sure you're getting adequate protein. Chances are you're way under eating protein. Most people do, especially women. So if you're not getting 100 grams minimum per day, that's your first goal. And then that can be adjusted based on your ideal lean body weight. And that's different for everybody and activity level and that kind of thing. But you need to get that 100 grams minimum. The third thing to do is to prioritize resistance training over chronic cardio. You know the people that hanging on the elliptical machine at the gym and they're on there for an hour, but they're leaning over the handlebars. They're just getting their sweat in, they're getting their cardiovascular conditioning in probably, but they're doing nothing to help build that resilience and to calm down the nervous system. So even resistance bands or body weight training to start, if you're really starting out, and very moderate, okay, very moderate, especially if you're super burned out. the fourth step is to create some predictable routines, specifically a bedtime routine and a morning routine. Try to get some sleep timing consistency. Those kind of go into each other. So that's the fifth one, is sleep timing consistency. But the predictable routine is just going to back to that for a second. That can also include, your meal timing, making sure you're getting a breakfast, a lunch, and a dinner 3 times a day, starting out, refuel your body. That consistency, that predictable routine for your body is going to calm the nervous system out. Who here feels better when they're going into a situation that they have no clue about? They have no idea what they're in for. Who feels more calm in that situation versus when you have kind of an itinerary and you know what the thing is going to be about? If you're going on a vacation and you have no clue what's happening and you wing it all day, every day, that's going to be a lot more stressful than having at least like a plan. Here's my flight times, here's my transportation times, here's our hotel, whatever. Think about that just on day to day. If your body doesn't know what the heck you're doing every day with your food, with your exercise, with your sleep, with your hydration, whatever it might be, it's not feeling safe. You got to make your body feel safe. Okay, you got to reduce your decision fatigue. So that's where we're going to simplify things. You're going to make things super simple. Like I said, maybe it's you have your breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That's your predictable routine. Maybe you're going to decide, I'm going to try to go to bed at 10 p.m. and I'm going to wake up at 6 a.m. and just make one decision on those types of things. How many grams of protein you're going to eat, how many minutes and frequency of strength training you're going to do, and that's it. You don't have to look at, all the different programs and get off of the social media when it comes to making health decisions. Just sort of get back to the basics and what feels good for you and what actually lights you up. That's going to be easier to get done than, again, giving over your power to someone else to tell you what to do. You get to decide, and that will help to reduce your decision fatigue, which causes a lot of that stress. So the regulation of these different strategies will create the capacity to create results in whatever that looks like for you. So the results come because when your nervous system is calm, you're going to have regular, stable blood sugar. Your hormones will then start to respond. Your energy will improve. And then guess what? Fat stores are going to be able to get into a little bit easier. They're going to be more accessible for burning energy. Your cravings will decrease and your sleep improves. And when your sleep improves, everything else improves. When your blood sugar stabilizes, everything else can stabilize. This is not a quick fix. This is not fast. This is not something that takes, a week to figure out, but it is sustainable if you just calm the nervous system in order to do that. So what we need to talk about is sort of just kind of bring it together, make it kind of concise. Your hormones respond to the signals in your body from your nervous system. This is how they're supposed to work. Your blood sugar is a signal. That's an example. But when your nervous system is in fight or flight, and it's mostly in fight or flight, all those signals get interrupted. Okay? All those signals are interrupted. So nothing really works as well as it should. It's not a well-oiled machine, as they say. So if you don't get your nervous system in check, everything else will be harder to get together. So this is not the time to, if you're stressed and tired and wired and super fight or flight mode right now, this is not the time to, I don't know, let's say, like I said, start a new exercise routine or start some extreme diet because it's, the beginning of the year and everybody wants to do a resolution kind of thing. This is the time to calm the nervous system down. And, one of the first steps that I talked about is, as far as a foundational strategy, is that consistent meal timing so that you can balance your blood sugar. That is going to be so important for you to create this safety in your body and then create the sustainability in your habits. One thing begets another. And blood sugar is kind of where it starts when you're calming down your nervous system. So if this sounds like you and you feel like maybe your blood sugar could be an issue, I want you to jump in the glucose reset. I have limited spots available right now. But you get your continuous glucose monitors and it shows you so much information that you can't even believe, because a lot of times, and I've tested it myself, I wear one once in a while just to see what's going on. And it's very telling how non-food things affect your glucose when you haven't even had food in, several hours, and how your glucose can spike because of something stressful going on in your life. So if you can time your meals and change the type of protein and the type of carbohydrates and the timing of all these things, because you have this data on your CGM, it is so much more valuable, and it gives you the knowledge about how your body is working, because not everybody has the same responses. Just because everybody says that if you eat potatoes, it's bad carbohydrates, you're going to cause blood sugar spikes. That's not true for everybody. It's not true for everybody. White potatoes may cause an issue with some people, and white potatoes may not cause an issue for other people. In fact, I've seen sometimes people wearing these that sweet potatoes, which are great as well, but people always think they're much healthier than a white potato. And I've seen that cause a blood sugar spike bigger in people than a white potato. So you just don't know. The CGM can help bring that information into clear view for you. And that is one of the first steps, aside from those strategies I gave you. The blood sugar thing is something that I would hop on ASAP and get that figured out. Join the glucose reset program. It's $150 off this month. It's a great deal, and you're gonna get so much valuable information for it. So if that sounds like you, I want you to say reset, and we will send you the link to the glucose reset so you can get on that and get feeling and functioning so much better. All right, if you have any questions, comment below. We'll get to them as soon as possible, as soon as we see them, and I look forward to helping you out. Have an awesome day.